Hello! It is January 30th, so tomorrow is the last day of the first month of 2023, and I'm wearing a hoodie inside, because I wanted to have a hood on, but I wear a hoodie inside these days in the winter just for the layer. I've also got a couple hoodies I wear with my pajamas just for the layer. Japan's not really big on insulation for your typical home, especially a rental home, at least in the part of Japan I live in. So in the summer, the heat just pours in, the humidity just pours in. If you have some kind of air conditioning, you're just fighting the external forces that keep coming into your home. You can't just turn it on and leave it on for a while and then shut it off and let it just hold that adjusted climate. It'll just go right out the walls. And in the winter, it's the same thing. So it gets pretty chilly inside. I've got a space heater, but it heats up the space in front of it, and I'm not in front of it right now. So anyway, I'm wearing a hoodie because I got a haircut, or rather, I cut my own hair, and it's short. This is like summer hair. Normally I'd want the top longer than this, the top and the front, but the clippers I bought, I used the biggest setting, the biggest, I don't know what they're called, guides. I used the biggest guide comb, which is about 2 centimeters or so, and I just did everything. So it's about 2 centimeters. Some spots I missed. I don't have mirrors, but overall it's a pretty uniform length, and it is chilly. And I'll leave it for a month or 6 weeks and let it grow out another inch. And then I'll work on the sides and the back and try to get something better. I'm not going to bother trying to shape it, because then I'd have to go even smaller where I want it shorter, and I don't want it shorter than this. I kind of like having the sides and the back around this length, but the top and the front I want longer. So this is short, really short. And that'd be great in summer. In winter, it's a bit chilly. My head's a bit cold, but I let it grow. Like, there were just armfuls of hair on my floor and on my chest and on my shoulders yesterday. They included this kind of a bib, like a barbershop bib that you can wear, but when you're standing and doing it yourself, you're moving a lot, and that doesn't help. I also bought like a folding mirror that opens on 3 sides, front and left and right. But where do I put it? I don't really have a good spot to put it. It's got little hooks, you can hang it from something, so I tried hanging it, but it wasn't really easy to see the back of my head. So, that was the first time I did it, so I don't have to go to the hair salon anymore, and I'll just keep doing my own hair for a while. Thought about this for a long time. I'm not going to shave it all off. I don't know. As short as this, I don't think I have the right head shape to pull off shaving my head. You want something a bit squarer, not like rounded. I don't think it'd look very interesting. So I'll just leave it this short and let it grow out for a while, and then, maybe tidy up the sides and the back every couple of weeks, but leave the top and the front alone, and just see, what I can do. I've got to learn how to do it, and I'm not going to be doing it very often, so I'm not going to build up the skill set very quickly. But anyway, this is my hair. Now, what I wanted to do for this video today was use one of my little whiteboards. Now, in Japan, sometimes there are signs where whoever made the sign wanted to include English, but they just didn't bother checking the spelling. So you get things like this. No smorking, with an R there. And some of these are professionally printed signs, like repeated multiple times. At the park Sankeien, there's this big fence, and every 5 meters or so, there's one of these signs, no smorking, that, whoever runs Sankeien, maybe the city, Yokohama City, paid for. Any spell check thing will tell you that that doesn't exist. So that is something that's quite funny to see. No smorking. another sign in Yodobashi camera that I think the shop made. There's a place where like a service door opens, and it also has an access to the street, so it's kind of a high traffic area, and they don't want people to hang out there. They just want people to move through this area, and especially not block the service door. So they put up a sign in multiple languages, and the English says, "No stopping," and there's an O there, and that's something they made themselves for their shop. So again, I'm pretty sure they confirmed the kanji. I'm pretty sure they confirmed the Japanese so that they wouldn't embarrass themselves and have bad Japanese on their sign. Doesn't take much to check the English spelling. Just run it through a computer, see if you get a spell check hit. Now, another place, Hungry Tiger. It's a restaurant that sells like steak and things like that, but it also sells these Hamburg steaks, which is just ground beef. And it's big, it's got onions and things chopped up in it, and they'll cook it and they'll bring it to your table on this metal pan, still super hot, and they'll chop it up in front of you and spread it out so that the insides will cook evenly, and it splatters oil and grease up. So it's really famous for having this napkin bib thing that you're supposed to put around your neck to protect your clothing, but when the table server chops it up and spreads it on the metal plate, you're supposed to pull that up like this to protect yourself from the oil. It's one of the things of Hungry Tiger. And there's another similar restaurant chain called Big Boy, which I think comes from an American chain, which is the same thing, like steak, but also they have Hamburg steak. So in Yokosuka Chuo, there's a big sign for Hungry Tiger, and across the top it says, "Are you hungry?" And then at the bottom it says Hamburg. And now Hamburg is what that ground beef dish is called in Japan. It's called a Hamburg steak, and in Japan they just call it Hamburg. But the funny point is steak, S-T-A-K-E. And that's professionally made. That's on this big, huge digital display, like several meters across, that it rotates through different shops and restaurants. And every time Hungry Tiger comes up, it has their sign, "Are you hungry? Hamburg and steak," and it says Hungry Tiger across the bottom and has a little map to where it's located. Hamburg and steak. So I guess no vampires allowed, because if you go there, there'll be a steak waiting for you. And then, of course, you have your typical restaurant menus with flesh juice. And spell check's not going to help you because flesh is an actual English word. That should, of course, be an R, fresh juice, but flesh juice. So I'm thinking blood? Is it blood? Maybe that comes from the Hamburg steak and they just squeeze it out into a glass, but one of the funniest things I saw was a t-shirt. When I was in Aobarai many years ago doing some shopping, I saw this guy coming down the street with a t-shirt, and whenever I see English on t-shirts, I always take a look, because sometimes it's great, but other times it just makes me shake my head. Now, this is what I could read on the t-shirt. Suck my, and then a CK here. Because he had some kind of a, shoulder bag on. And the shoulder bag was blocking that part of the t-shirt. So this black t-shirt with big white letters that said "Suck my blank," and then a CK. Now, as we got closer, he was making adjustments to his bag, and I thought, what could the missing piece possibly be? Now, my mind was thinking, of course, two options. Maybe the missing part is a DI, so suck my Or maybe it's a C-O, so then suck my. So I thought it's one of those. It's got to be one of those. So we'll see when he moves his bag. We'll see which one it is. And his bag slid across, and the two letters that had been covered were exposed. So I got to see what his t-shirt said. Oh, I want to sneeze, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna try to hold it. So it said, I gave it away when I sneezed. This. F-U. So, suck my. What does that mean? Who, some edgy Japanese person thought, I'm going to put this on a t-shirt. It's going to be so edgy because I'm using these words that I know are risque. What? And plus it's huge, right? So in Japan, people aren't even they're going to look at it and just dismiss it. They're not going to know what it means. They're not going to bother reading it or really checking it out. English is used decoratively in that sense. Some t-shirts are amazing. Other t-shirts, you just wonder. But that t-shirt, what is being communicated? If he were wearing that in the US or Canada or any country where people use English every day, what would the takeaway be when you saw him on the street, when you passed him? I've seen, t-shirts that had 10 really colorful pictures, like a marble or a button, right? These 10 really cute, colorful little objects. And one of my students had this t-shirt, and the top said, Top 10 Most Dangerous Choking Hazards for Infants. And, this was a warning label, and these were the top 10 things that infants might choke on, so you shouldn't leave them around. Okay? He didn't know what his shirt said. He just thought it looked cute, and the pictures were cute, and they were cute, but there was a darker message behind it. Another student, this university boy I used to teach, had this sweatshirt he really liked, until I told him what it said on the front. And the front it said in big letters, I am a happy grandmother. So he, said he was going to stop wearing it because he was embarrassed. He didn't really think to check what the shirt said or, to confirm what the shirt meant. And it was, as far as I know, a men's sweatshirt. It was for men, but it said, I'm a happy grandmother on the front. So there's a lot of interesting things you might come across in Japan. And I'm not going to dignify it by calling it Japanese English, because there's no Japanese English. There's British English, Australian English, American English. Those are actual languages with different nuances, different pronunciations, different vocabularies. In each area, in each region. And when you hear them, you can distinguish where those people are from. In Japan, foreign words enter the Japanese language, and they just become part of the Japanese language. So the same way that sushi is an English word, and geisha is an English word, and samurai is an English word now. Of course, they came from Japanese, but they're English words now. They entered the English language. I wouldn't say if I used an English sentence, and if I said, I read that there was a big tsunami in Japan 10 years ago, and because I put the word tsunami in my sentence, that doesn't mean I'm speaking Japanese. I'm speaking English, and tsunami is an English word now. So, in Japan, the media and a lot of people use the phrase Japanese English. It's not Japanese English, it's Japanese, and there's some new vocabulary that came in from other cultures. The problem is, this borrowed language is written in a different writing system called katakana, and it's a way of protecting real Japanese from foreign influence. So they put these words in katakana to distinguish them from I guess what could be considered real Japanese or authentic Japanese. But the katakana doesn't tell you where it's come. So words like shoe cream is just bad French, shoe à la crème. And Arbeiter or Fritter come from German. Piero comes from Italian. Hotchkiss is the name of a German person who, I guess, designed or a company that made staplers. So in Japan, a stapler is called a Hotchkiss, but none of those are English, and a lot of Japanese people think if it's katakana, it's probably English. And the other problem is a lot of companies will make fake English. The media or other companies will just make fake English that isn't borrowed at all. So, for example, the big window that you look through when you're driving in your car is called a windshield, and in Japan it's called fronto garasu, just front glass. And front glass is not from English, not from anywhere in English. Now they could call it window shirudo and just borrow the English and pronounce it with katakana, or they could call it kaze tate, so literally wind shield, or kaze no tate, shield for the wind, and then translate it, or they could just call it, mai no mado, front window, or mai mado. But just to say, let's just make some fake English. Let's just slap some fake English on here. Not a big part, but, a significant part of my job is deleting Japanese words from my students' sentences when they're speaking. And it's harder when they think those words come from English because they're represented using katakana and they're not standard Japanese words. So someone who has had an operation and has changed their gender is called new half in Japanese. New half. Well, new half doesn't mean anything in English. You could say transsexual or something like that. There are different terms, but new half, that's not English. It doesn't mean anything. There are a lot of examples like this. Domestic violence, they just say DV. DV. So domestic violence. There is no Japanese word that can be used. This is some imported concept. This is some imported problem that came to Japan. So it needs to have its original foreign title, domestic violence. No, just it existed in Japan. And it might not have had a name, but there are Japanese words that can be used for it instead of borrowing English and then abbreviating it. Another example is cell phones. When cell phones first came out in Japan, some companies called them PHS, which is personal handy system, and that handy comes from Germany. Meine Handy. Handy meant that, cellular phone, that portable phone you could carry everywhere. Other companies called them, what was the other word? Oh, handy phone. They just called it. So there's handy phone, and or PHS, so personal handy system. So again, handy phone comes from German, handy. But Japanese people started calling them keitai denwa, or just shorten it to keitai. Because why use borrowed words when you could use Japanese words to communicate the same thing without having to teach people what these borrowed words mean, especially when those borrowed words were actually made and coined by Japanese people and not actually borrowed at all. So anyway, that's my haircut. That's my little rant about katakana. Those are some examples of weird English that you might come across if you come to Japan. But anyway, thanks for watching. And next time you see me, my hair will be longer. Bye.